After failing to shake the stench of his Nazi candidate in North Carolina, Donald Trump took a desperate flight to Pennsylvania, only to torpedo his candidacy further with yet another disastrous swing state rally. So to kick things off, here is the convicted felon speaking to an all-MAGA venue in Indiana, Pennsylvania, calling the polls, which have him losing, fake, along with the rest of the American news media.
You know, polls are fake also, just like these people, the fake news.
Discrediting the press, how authoritarian of him. And speaking of the polls, the latest poll in Pennsylvania, conducted by Spotlight Pennsylvania and Massachusetts Institute for a New Commonwealth, has Kamala Harris beating Donald Trump 49-44, a 5-point margin, hence why Trump referred to the polls as fake, which to me is a sign of weakness. He knows he's losing, so he's setting the stage for that quote-unquote stolen election narrative for when he gets delivered his second general election loss in a row. In fact, here he is complaining yet again about early voting, calling it stupid.
Vote, you can start right away. You know that, right? Now we have this stupid stuff where you can vote 45 days early. I wonder what the hell happens during that 45. Let's move see these votes? We've got about 1 million votes in there. Let's move them. We're fixing the air conditioner in the room, right? No, it's terrible. What happened the last time was disgraceful, including right here.
What happened right here in Pennsylvania is that you lost to Joe Biden and Kamala Harris by over 80,000 votes. And I don't know what he was talking about there with the air conditioning. That's probably the effects of his cognitive decline, which caused him to ramble. Speaking of early voting, Donald, it is not stupid. It is the democratic process, something you're clearly not a fan of, nor is Trump a fan of successful and accomplished black women, as he goes on to attack Oprah Winfrey, which you can also hear his crowd boo.
Now she gets out Oprah Winfrey, who I used to know well. She used to love me until I decided to run for politics. Oh, let's go to Mar-a-Lago, Donald. I love the place so much. No, she used to love me, but once I ran for politics, that was the end of that, and that was okay with me. I couldn't care less.
Sounds a little bit like you do care, Donald, or else you wouldn't be bringing Oprah Winfrey's name up at your swing state rally with 6 weeks left to go until voting day. P.S. Not a great strategy of Donald to win over female voters, black voters, and undecided voters in the state with the highest amount of electoral college votes, but evidently Donald Trump doesn't have a strategy. He's just throwing whatever he thinks will stick at voters, including scaremongering, by claiming that this will be the last election if he loses.
I mean, somebody I heard the other day, pretty smart person, and you think about it, and it could be true. They said, if we don't win this election, there may never be another election in this country. It could happen.
Why? Is that because you plan to incite another insurrection and overthrow the government when Harris beats you? Sounds a little bit like that inflammatory rhetoric that you and J.D. Vance always accuse Democrats of doing against you. Speaking of rhetoric, Trump goes on to call Harris a communist in what could easily be construed as him inciting violence against her, according to his and Vance's logic.
This can only happen to me, so I end up with somebody new. But here's the thing. All I have to do is expose her for what she is. She's a communist, okay? She's a communist.
So much for that new post-quote-unquote assassination tone. And by the way, I never knew a communist could oversee several stock market highs, record job growth, and record unemployment. I much prefer that to the days where toilet paper and ventilators were out of stock, in which the only thing you oversaw was record high American casualties. But deep down, I think Trump knows Harris is better for the economy, because here he is trying to take credit for her and Joe Biden's stock market highs.
A lot of people say the only reason the stock market's high is everyone thinks I'm going to win the election. I believe that's true. A lot of the biggest, smartest, Uncle Sam, look, it's Uncle Sam. Uncle Sam is here.
Easy there, Grandpa. Nobody's saying that, by the way. Those are just the voices in your head, the same ones that tell you you won an election that you lost by 7 million plus votes. Anyhow, moving forward to a later part in the rally where Donald Trump, who can't seem to conjure up any legitimate criticism of Kamala Harris, begins to focus his attention on Kamala Harris's father, who he goes on to attack in yet another display of ignorance.
And you know, her father is a fascist. He's a Marxist.
You can't be a fascist and a Marxist at the same time. Read a book, Donald. Do they not teach you anything at Trump University? By the way, I'm pretty sure this is defamation, which Kamala Harris's father should definitely consider after Harris wins the election, as Donald Trump doesn't have a very successful track record in civil court. Just ask E. Jean Carroll and the state of New York. All right, so I want to close out Pennsylvania by airing what I think has become Trump's new strategy in a last-ditch effort to appeal to women, a demographic he's polling very poorly with. And I don't think this new strategy is going to work. Here he is trying to convince the women in the crowd that banning abortion is a good thing and seemingly hoping to give women amnesia about his overturning of Roe v. Wade.
But the fake news keeps saying women don't like me. I don't believe it, because I am your protector. I want to be your protector. As president, I have to be your protector. I hope you don't make too much of it. I hope the fake news doesn't go, oh, he wants to be their protector. Well, I am. As president, I have to be your protector. You will no longer be thinking about abortion. So all they talk about abortion, because we've done something that nobody else could have done. It is now where it always had to be, with the states and a vote of the people.
Just a side note to all of the women listening, when a man who just so happens to be an adjudicated rapist and who has been accused several times of sexual assault tells you that he is your protector and that it is in your best interest for him to take away your fundamental human rights, you should run very, very far away. Like I said, this line of messaging is so medieval and misogynistic that I believe it will hurt him even more in the female voter department. And just to be clear, this is Donald Trump's way of rebranding what is him and Republicans, rolling back women's freedoms and equality. Period. End of story. There you have it, guys. Donald Trump continues his voter and female alienation tour in a state that he's already struggling in. The man can't seem to help but dig his own grave deeper wherever he goes, as he's currently doing in Georgia, which I will be sure to cover in the next podcast. And of course, still no mention of Mark Robinson, whom Donald Trump endorsed, which should tell you everything you need to know about how damaging Robinson continues to be for Trump's flailing candidacy. 42 days left in this race, and with the way things are trending, Harris is on pace to swoop Pennsylvania just as Biden did back in 2020. Fingers crossed and full speed ahead. Thank you guys for listening to today's episode of the Gen Z Perspective. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe to the show and give us a 5-star review on Apple, because as you can see, the MAGA lunatics have bombarded the podcast with 0-star reviews. I think we're worth a little more than that, but I also think it shows you how terrified they are of our generation. Thanks again for tuning in, and I'll catch you guys next time on the Gen Z Perspective. The Gen Z Perspectives theme song was created and produced by Pokari.